Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jay Recher Podcast. Happy Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad, as we kind of fix everything here, make sure everything's good. Don't want the light to fall. Everything is all good. We're still work in progress behind me, but, you know, I got all my Ray stuff behind me. Got the lightning, sun, gold. I got the orange flag back there for the Bucs. We're still working on it, though. I got something in the works, too, as far as a step and repeat, something going in behind me. I want to do something special. I got a friend up in New York that does a lot of graffiti stuff where he turns them into T-shirts. I mean, super talented guy. So I want to get with him. I want to do like a very special backdrop where it says the Jay Recher Podcast, has my little JR on it. But also has like all the different teams on there. So it's a work in progress. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. The subscribers just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And man, I can't thank you guys enough for the levels that we've reached so far, but it doesn't stop here. We're just going to continue to trend upwards. And of course, we're going to highlight a lot of things here locally in the Bay Area. Shout out to our guy, Bart. We always want to hear from you. If you want to chime in on the conversation, you can do it via the text like that, or you can hop on the video call there, StreamYard.com. There's a link in the chat. All you do is just click that link in the chat. Whether you're on the phone, whether you're on the laptop, you can join in on the conversation, whatever you want to talk about. We definitely want to hear from you. David Terry, all the way from Liverpool. Nice. Appreciate you, Dave, from chiming in over there across the pond. I'm rocking my Manchester United kit yesterday, today, and tomorrow ahead of the Europa League final against Tottenham at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Cannot wait for that one. It is going to be crazy. I am nervous already. Great show for you guys today. We have so much to get into. At 12:15, our pal Evan Closky from 10 Tampa Bay is going to join us, WTSP. He was there yesterday for the Simeon Rice, the start of the celebration for his induction to the Buccaneers Ring of Honor. Really cool. And we're going to get into that here in a second. Going to play a video, one of the ones I recorded yesterday, about where he thinks the Buccaneers defense ranks all time, and also his, I don't want to say, maybe tumultuous is too strong of a word, but a very interesting relationship that he has with Warren Sapp. And where are you watching from today? This is something we used to do on Bolts Breakdown back in the day. Let's bring it back here to the Jay Recher Podcast. Where are you watching from today? I want to hear from you, like Sean Thompson. Hello from Atlanta. Where are you watching the Jay Recher Podcast from today? Chime in. Let's get that good vibe going. Let's get the chat rolling. We'll do that pretty much every show now. Where are you watching from? David Terry from Liverpool, Sean Thompson from Atlanta. So we'll get into that to start the program. We'll talk a little Simeon Rice. Again, Evan Closky joins us at 12:15. At 12:45, back to the Buccaneers. Josh Grizzard and a bunch of the offensive coaching staff for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers spoke today at One Buccaneer Place over at the Avon Health Training Center. We will get into that, and we'll play some of those comments for you. Very excited to see what this offense is going to do. Sky's the limit, right? With all the weapons that they have. At 1 o'clock, why you shouldn't be feeling bad about the Toronto Maple Leafs or for the Toronto Maple Leafs or Juan Soto. They've been catching a lot of heat over the last 72 hours. We'll get into that as well. 1:15, Alexa Russo is going to hop on. University of Tampa softball. They head out, I think it's tonight, to Chattanooga for the D2 World Series. Shout out to our Spartans doing big things. And then at 1:35 to wrap things up, who's in action tonight? USF Baseball in Clearwater there to start the American Athletic Conference tournament. They take on ECU. We've also got NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and the Rays trying to right the ship once again. Where's everybody watching from today? Bart Hill from Davis Island. Carlos Baserva watching from my postal truck. Are you a letter carrier? Carlos, my dad actually sold uniforms to the letter carriers in New York for a very long time. My grandfather did the same thing. They worked for a place called Economy Uniforms. And I know you know this, if you're a letter carrier, you would get a monthly or a yearly allowance of, at the time it was $300 or whatever, and you would buy like boots or pants or shirts and stuff like that. It wasn't cheap, man. It wasn't cheap. But that allowance, my dad would have everybody's allowance, like know when their anniversary date was. So he'd go to them before like their month came up, and he would say, hey, if you need anything. And like he got up early, man, because he went to all the different post offices on Long Island before they would go out to their route. And I remember going out there with him a couple of times, and I was like, I am not a morning person. Not a morning person at all. So I tried, but I was like, Dad, this isn't for me. He's like, that's fine. That works. Thank you, Carlos. My best friend Rob up there, he's a guy, he's another one, letter carrier and balling out, man. Janet Best, watching from Sarasota. B. Mauk, how's everybody doing today? I'm great, man. I hope you are too. And Dolan, watching from his UPS truck in Apollo Beach. Dolan, you're the man, buddy. I appreciate you. Carlos from up in D.C., hope you're well for at least better than the Rowdies right now. I know, man. I know. And it's funny because Coach came up to me after the game and he said, thanks for being kind. I go, well, there's only so much you can say. I spoke to Leo Fernandez. They're working on it. I do like it was a step in the right direction the other day, kind of get some solidification of what the lineup's going to look like. You need Leo Fernandez to be in there for 90 minutes. I just don't like when he's out wide. He's a guy that does better up in the middle. I hope that they operate and use him as kind of a number 10. They use two strikers up top. They need to adjust that a little bit. What are they going to do? Maybe a 4-1-3-2. That might not be. Maybe that might be the best. I think they're still trying to figure it out, but he's got to be in the middle. Him out wide doesn't really make much sense. But appreciate you, Carlos. And again, let us know where you're watching from. I want to hear from you. Where are you guys watching from? The Jay Recher Podcast. Yesterday, we were on for an hour because I wanted to go over to the One Buc place over at the Evan Health Training Center and to see a guy like Simeon Rice get honored. He's getting inducted into the Buccaneers Ring of Honor, the 16th person. It'll be the game against the Arizona Cardinals, which I think is really cool, against one of the teams that he played for, the team he got drafted by. So that's going to be special for him. But I want you to listen to Simeon Rice. And he was asked if he thought that the Buccaneer defense where did it rank all time? And then also, I thought this was interesting, his relationship with Warren Sapp. I don't know if you guys heard this story, but this is pretty damn cool. This is Simeon Rice yesterday over at the Advent Health Training Center at One Buccaneer Place.
I answer number 2. I think all time, respectfully, is number 2 all time. That's where I think it's right behind 85 Bears. I think it's the 85 Bears and then us. And me being next to Warren was interesting. Because we started out rocky. Because we both, this is where he plays. This is, I understood the assignment when I got here. When I got here, I came here to play with him. I didn't know, there was between New York, here, and Chicago. In Chicago, when I went and had that meeting, it didn't really go well. Like Happy said, I was like Michael Johnson, all highlights, no substance. So I was like, okay. And during that same meeting, I was on the phone with Rich McKay, like right outside the restaurant at Smith and Woleski's in Chicago. And I said, listen, we can get this thing done. I said, if you bring me down, you'll be in the Super Bowl either this year or next year. Trust me, because I could tell. Like I watched the Bucs play the Rams in that game, and I'm like, if I would have been playing, you would have won that game. You know what I mean? On that buzzy play at the end of the game or whatever with the Ricky Pro, that catch. So I was familiar with my position at this time I wanted to win. So coming out, and we had that dinner, and we came out with Tony, and he brought me down, and we had the dinner, and Warren was supposed to be at the dinner. So I said, it was like, Warren said he was going to be on his way. I'm like, oh, okay. So somebody calls him, and I'm like, what's up? He's like, where you going? I'm like, oh, I'm at the dinner. Where you at? He's like, I don't know, where you at? I was like, I'm at the dinner. Where you at? You coming? I'm like, what you on, Sam? I'm like, I don't know, what's up? What you on? Man, I'll call you back, Click. I'm like, and like, what did he say? I was like, oh, no, he just hung up on me. You know what I mean? He was filling me out. Like, he was trying to figure out what type of dude I was, whatever. So then I get here, and immediately Rod set the room on fire. He was like, yo, this is what our expectations are at YouTube. So that was kind of rocky from the beginning, you know what I mean? And then I realized it was all sweet. You know, I got up in the meeting, I'm like, you'll never call this dude out. And I pointed to him, I'm like, this dude's not making plays, da, da, da. And then we got real tumultuous in with me. He's like, listen, he's like, you're the new guy. He didn't say my name, but he was talking with me. Everybody knew it. He's like, everybody up here, we might not, I don't care what you did anywhere else. I don't care if you was a all-pro anywhere. I don't care if you did this. When you playing here, there's different rules, and other guys got a level of trust that you have to earn. I'm sitting here like, okay. And then he started the rotation thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm in a rotation for the first time in my career. Meanwhile, I got 9-9 talking crazy to me too. Like, you know, like, oh, this defense exposed you. I'm like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about me. I'm gonna be all right. I mean, long story short, as the days and the weeks progressed and months progressed, there was a high level of respect for myself and for him. We start really respecting each other, as opposed to two entities colliding because we got a big argument on the field once. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, they wanted to see that. And I'm like, hey, bro, I'm not to be played with like that. You know what I mean? Like, yo, it went on the whole time. I'm not gonna go into it too deep, but it almost became like a situation. I'm like, I'm not the one to play with like that. Long story short is somewhere in the great in between, we start really, really respecting each other as the play. You know, he's understood me and I understood him. And I love playing with him. And we became brothers. We really have. We became brothers. And I think because we really, really, truly respected each other. So our relationship was a built relationship, but it was built on respect.
So there you have it. And listen, there's just so many different ways to go about it. And I really wanted to play that whole thing for you guys because I wanted you to get the idea of where his mindset was. And just like, not everybody's going to be a choir boy. Not everybody is going to be, all right, you know, like Warren was one of one. He really was. And he was pushing and prodding and needling Simeon Rice. And he wanted to see what he was made of. Oh, okay, you say you're an alpha, but you're an alpha out west. You're out alpha with the Cardinals. What are you going to do for this defense? We're close. We're going to the Super Bowl, whether you're here or not. That's the mindset that Warren and those guys had. I mean, you think about it, and throughout the entire conversation, Simeon was talking about coming here and playing with Warren and Derek and John Lynch and Rondé Barber and, you know, all these different guys, and just how much respect that he had for them, and knowing that, hey, man, like this team, even though I was portrayed as the missing piece, like he knew there were some ballers that were already there. So I like the fact that Warren checked him, but Sim rose to the occasion. And listen, the conversation yesterday was very powerful because it started with Simeon Rice, very emotional, moved to tears, thinking about his mom and his dad who are no longer with us and what a day like yesterday would mean to them and just how instrumental they were in his journey. And, you know, see a big guy like that move to tears, like it, you know, you had to be there. Like it was heavy in that room. You could feel it. But then as the conversation goes on and, you know, he's talking, answering a lot of these questions, like Simeon Rice came out like the brash, cocky, alpha, you know, pass rushers. That's just the way they are, man. That one-on-one matchup that you have to win week in, week out on multiple occasions. It was really cool to kind of see him almost turn back the clock and to have that kind of swagger. Co-chairman Brian Glazer mentioned yesterday that he should be a Hall of Famer. And listen, I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be. This is one of the best pass rushers we've seen. Forget about, and Ian said this yesterday when him and I were talking, he's not just one of the best pass rushers, if not the best pass rusher in Buccaneers history. He's one of the best ever. And it's amazing when you look at his numbers and he's like, you know, the exception. Like he's not in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully that's rectified one day. And that's what Brian Glazer said. But really, really nice to be able to see him and to get his flowers from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, see his young son and his little, you know, his young son and Simeon's sister there. She was keeping a close eye on Sim's son. it was really cool, and to be able to see everybody that was in attendance there. Yeah, it'll be great to see him get his name recognized there and against the team that he played with. Really, really cool stuff. The Buccaneers, when they do their Ring of Honor stuff, they do it top notch. All right, let's bring him in. 10 Tampa Bay. Evan Closky joins us on the program, and I was just talking about Simeon Rice. You were there yesterday too, Ev, and I thought it was powerful when a guy that big and a guy that confident, and we know how brash he was in this, and he went on to talk about his butting of the heads with Warren Sapp early in his career. But to see a guy like that move to tears, at the beginning there, I thought I wasn't expecting that. What say you?
No, I mean, Sim's such a confident guy, and I didn't really know what was going on actually when he stepped up there, and I was like, is he crying? And I was like, oh man, he is crying. Certainly, I don't think that he's cried very much in his life, but I think anybody who has lost a parent, and I spoke with Sim afterwards and kind of told him that I lost my mother a couple of years ago, and him having that moment and thinking about what it would have meant for his parents to have been there to see this, knowing that it meant so much to his family, and knowing that his last name is going to go up in the Ring of Honor, and some of these moments that you miss out on as life continues without them. For anyone out there who has been through it, you feel that in the deepest part of your soul, what he felt going into that moment, and how it just smacks you in the face and you cannot plan for it. So, he's so honest about it, saying that he kind of shoved all these feelings about, the loss of his father, and not fully going through maybe a little bit of a therapeutic process for him, and understanding where where he's at with that. And it just emerged. So the number one thing that I always appreciate about Sim, and I got to know him really well doing the Blitz when we launched the show. We launched it with Simeon. He is so emotionally intelligent, and he really does know how to speak from an emotional side of things, and is well in touch with him. So to kind of understand where he's at personally, to understand what that moment meant for him, what it meant for his family, it was just really it was really touching. And it's been a long time coming, and I really hope that this is the start of something that can generate some positive momentum into Canton, because I think he's been overlooked for the Hall of Fame for far too long.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think we tend to forget too, like, these guys are, they're superheroes, right? They're superheroes, and we forget at the end of the day that they're human beings as well. I remember after we lost our young one, and going up and having a conversation with Shaq Barrett after he lost his daughter, and him and I just kind of shared a moment together after training camp one day, and it's different, man. It's totally different when you just kind of take the football player out of it and just forget. I know a lot of people out there like, oh, they make millions of dollars, they should be able to compartmentalize their feelings. Like, it's so much easier to say that from the outside. Like, they're going to have bad days. They're going to be happy. They're going to be sad. Like, they do have to go out there and execute on Sunday, but outside of that, like, they're still human beings, and they go through a lot of the same things. I remember years ago watching Anton Strahlman at Amalie Arena, and all four of his kids were running around yelling, and he just sit there and he's just like, oh my God. And I go, oh my God, that's the same look my dad had when his four kids were running around. His kids didn't care that he was a millionaire, that he was a hockey player. Our guy Russell, Jay, I think the issue with Simeon getting into the Hall of Fame is that the Bucs 2002 defense would have more Hall of Famers than the 85 Bears defense, and that would solidify our defense as the best ever. I thought in the past that was like a silly argument, but talking to some Hall of Fame voters, that does have something to do with it. I think Simeon should get in. I don't think it makes the Buccaneers defense the best of all time. Sometimes you just have like a amalgamation of stars, and it's like everybody plays at the right time. I think Simeon will eventually get in. I don't know if this is going to be, maybe it'll be one of those like Veterans Committee kind of things. I hope it doesn't wait that long, but like you said, man, he definitely deserves to get in.
Yeah, it's going to take some time, especially because I think for the first time this past year, he finally cracked the top 50.
Right.
So it was taking a while for him to even get that far. So we really can't even start thinking about the possibilities of Simeon getting in until he can start becoming a finalist and kind of go through what, Rondé had to go through, where you sit around and you don't get that knock for a couple of years. But, or, Rondé's case one, Lynch had, all these guys have to usually go through the old, I'm not getting the knock this year sort of deal. So once he kind of gets into that rotation, it's coming close. But yeah, I mean, between the Bears, between the Steel Curtain, the Bucs defense that year, that Super Bowl winning defense certainly is up there within the pantheon of best ever. Whether, they are, we can all debate where they rank with the 85 Bears and all that stuff. But, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to admit that when you look at the 2002 Buccaneers defense and you see what they did and they accomplished and they finished the drill, man, I mean, they really, like, I wish they had a little bit more to show for the talent that they had and how long they were together. But otherwise, hopefully this is just, Simeon's just kind of been there. And I think now the organization is starting to try to say, okay, we're going to help you out now, right? We're going to fully start doing this a little bit more than we ever have, especially because now Rondé, John, all these guys have kind of fell off the docket. They've gotten in. So now the Bucs really don't have anyone to focus in on getting into the Hall of Fame until we start trickling into Mike Evans territory and stuff. So.
Right. Well, hopefully that's many, many years down the road.
Exactly.
A couple more years here. I know after One Buc yesterday, you went over to Steinbrenner Field to watch what was going on with the Rays. What was the biggest thing? Let's just go pregame before with some of the announcements, some of the players coming back. And what was the one player or one announcement or lack of announcement that really stood out to you?
Well, first off, Jake Mangum's looks like he's going to head for his rehab assignment on Thursday. I think they're missing him. Certainly a guy that smacks the ball all over the yard, kind of Chandler Simpson-esque, not as fast, but he was certainly effective. And not only that, he's an amazing fielder. So when you talk about some of the most valuable Rays on this team, when you look at, just WAR, and I go by Baseball Reference because typically that is pretty similar to how the Rays view their guys and what they're analyzing. Jake Mangum was kind of near the top of what he could do. So he's a special guy. He's a spark plug. I really think they're missing a little bit of that. But it's a little bit disheartening that Kevin Cash was asked about DeLuca, and he was like, I don't know. He tried to do something the other day, and he's still sore. Like Kevin, pretty much without saying it, it felt like him just being like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm confused too. It just does, like, it's becoming a really bad situation where I don't know when DeLuca is coming back. And that's a big problem because just forget about like the team this year. We needed to see DeLuca this year to understand, is this a guy who the Rays can build with in the future, or is it do we just have to dump our losses and move on? Right. And they're getting no information this year, which is the worst possible outcome for a team that's trying to fact find right now to figure out what their foundation's going to be heading into probably like 2027, 2028, when this team should be peaking towards their best talent. So that was a little bit disheartening. Otherwise, it does seem like, generally speaking, they are going to get some bodies back maybe by next week. Next week, the week after, they're going to get a bunch of dudes. And of course, Shane McClanahan still seems like, the earliest would be the All-Star break. And, with how this season is going, they'll take their sweet time on Shane. They won't push him.
What did you make of the game yesterday? I mean, to fall behind, some hard luck hits for Pepio. Missed by just a couple inches, and they're able to bounce back, but unfortunately they come up short at the end of the game. What was your big takeaway from the matchup against the Astros in the first game of that series?
You got to come away with, you got to do your job when it is needed. Like it's a little bit like the John Cooper quotes about goaltending, right? It's not how many saves you make, it's when you make them. Right. So I don't really care about how many hits you have or you guys have been putrid for 6 innings, whatever, and all of a sudden in the 7th you start getting going. I don't care. At the end of the day, do you win or you lose? And in the 8th, in the 9th, or in the 7th and the 9th, they had opportunities there to move runners over and they to get them into a situation to tie the game or take the lead, and they just failed. look, Taylor Walls, man, you got to get that bunt down. It was not it was not an easy pitch to bunt. I totally get that. But the fact is, in that situation, you got to do whatever you got to do to get that bunt down. That is your job. And I don't blame Kevin Cash for making him bunt, because he allowed Walls to hit the previous at bat with first and second. I think it was no out, and he completely whiffed, looked terrible.
Mhm.
So, that it's tough, because Walls provides so much defensively, and I wish I can explain to fans how weird it is that Taylor Walls continues to come up with runners in scoring position. I think he's top 3 or 4 on the team in those situations, and he's batting like 8 or 9 in the order. Like, it's not supposed to happen this way. It's a complete outlier. Like, the guys ahead of him are Yandy, Brandon Lau, like Junior Caminero. Like, that makes a lot of sense, right? That's what's supposed to happen. But then it's just like Walls just continually gets in this position, and it's just brutal. It's brutal for the team. It's why they got Kim. It just stinks that, Kim was never going to be ready in time for the first couple of months, and it's really hurting them, because it's a black hole in the lineup. And then the Pepio, I do tip my cap to Pepio for making that a quality start, because I thought that was probably some of his worst stuff this year, location wise. Just even what he was kind of throwing there, it was not his best. Spin was off. Just all these metrics, it didn't look good, and he still found a way to get a quality start. That's the kind of stuff I need to see from Shane Baz, right? You don't have it, or you're losing it a little bit. Get me back on track. Get me 6 innings, 3 runs. And he gave his team a chance to get back in the game, and they did. And then, the short porch giveth and it taketh away, and and so goes life. But yeah, just I think after the game there was a comment of like, oh, is this like a little bit of tough luck, so on and so forth. And Cash was right. Like, at some point we got to make something happen, right? Like, we can talk about bad luck all we want, but we got to have control of that situation too, and put ourselves in good positions. And I think this team is not far off, but the big moments, the big hits, like, they have some spurts of it. They fight, but it's not enough of execution in big moments. I think more, when we look at the season as a whole, there's been more lack of execution than execution in big spots. And not to say they haven't done it before, but just if they did a little bit more, they would be above 500.
Yeah, not enough. And the whole Walls thing, you're in an 0-1 count. He squares around a little late because the infield's playing in. And listen, everybody's talking about the decision to bunt, or his ability to get the bunt down, or lack of ability. He didn't have to bunt. He didn't have to bunt that ball. Like, the ball was above the zone. And if he gets down and he bends his knees properly, I thought it was a very feeble and very frail attempt at getting the bunt down. And I don't think that enough people are talking about that. It's one thing to bunt. It's one thing not to get a bunt. But he didn't get low enough. Like, usually when they teach you to bunt, it's really bend your knees, get low, because you don't want to bunt. So when you get low and the ball is right up in your eye level there, if it's that high, it's going to be a ball. You don't bunt. So a ball that you're getting down, it's not chest high anymore. You're bending your knees and it's eye level. You know it's above the zone. You're not going to try to bunt that ball, so you don't pop it in the air like you did last night. I mean, God, he almost hit the ball to the outfield. He bunted that ball so damn hard. So get down. It was just a lazy, and that's my thing, Evan, is like, there's a lot of people when it comes to this race. There's a lot of everything's a caveat. Everything's like, well, they've done this and they do this, and this guy comes back. Like, successful teams aren't built around ifs and buts and coulds and woulds and shoulds and like, people have injuries. Like, it's just the way it goes. I mean, what's the excuse for Junior Caminero batting in the 230s and 240s? What's the excuse for Yandy Diaz batting in the 240s? Like, there's just a lot of, and then the pitchers you mentioned, Shane Baz and Taj Bradley, and the ERAs that are over 4 and over 5, and a guy like Ryan Pepio. People keep saying pitching is the strength of this team. I mean, they're not in the top 10 in the majority of things. So how is that a strength if you're middle of the pack? I just feel like there's so many excuses for this team this year, and it's almost like there's people already like writing them off. And I'm like, God dang, it's like 50 games into the season. But I mean, after what we've seen so far, are we really convinced that they're going to turn it around? Like, we're banking on Jake Mangum to come back and to save this team. This wasn't a guy that we even talked about going into the season. So, God bless guys like Chandler Simpson and guys that have been able to keep it afloat. But even the names that we know, Ev, they're not doing the job.
Yeah, and at least my preseason stance on this team, by the way, was possible wild card team, right? Like I think that they could have snuck into the third wild card spot if things broke right for them. Certainly not a World Series contender. I always viewed this season as a fact finding mission. That's what I'm saying. Like they
Mhm.
got to figure out they have too much. My biggest knock on the Rays is that they have log jammed themselves into so many positions, and it's not because of like, oh, circumstance. They've done it to themselves. People
Right.
are complaining right now about the Paredes trade, and it's a nuanced topic, and I could spend 20 minutes on that. But the fact is, they had to trade Paredes to bring Caminero up, and Caminero, is most likely going to be a first baseman in the future. Well, Aranda looks like he's a steady force, but he can't play in the field. And you got Trey Morgan down there who looks like he's a Gold Glove first baseman. And they keep drafting these middle infield type of guys that they're trying to put into the outfield. And you're looking at Chandler Simpson who's still trying to learn the outfield because they moved him out there. It just they're just drafting, and they're bringing in too many people of the same profile. And what happens is when they all start doing things, you get log jammed. And they've made some really bad decisions. They've also made some good ones, but they've made some bad decisions because their hand has been forced of like, well, damn, we're log jammed, and what are we going to do? And that's why they had to part with an Isaac Paredes, because they had to create room. And that trade happened probably a year or two too soon than what they wanted to, because they felt like they had to create space. And in doing so, there's not enough continuity and all this stuff. So, my thing is with the rotation, everyone is still outside of probably Rasmussen, who looks like the best pitcher by far, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Everyone's very young, or outside of Littell too. Everyone's very young, so everyone's still learning, right? Everyone's still learning how to be a pro. We've seen now Taj for a couple of years, but we still forget how young he is. And at a certain point, those excuses are going to run out, but you do have to give them the length of like a full season of getting through it. Where Taj, I do have a little bit higher of an expectation versus a guy like Boz, who has to get through a full year first, and Pepio, who kind of went through it a little bit last year and is gonna have to go through it again. So they're still very young. They got a bunch of arms underneath them who, they can trade some assets and figure some stuff out. But ultimately, entering the season, I thought it was. I think when we look back on it, it was a really tall order to say, "Hey, Junior Caminero, you're going to have to be the offensive generator for this team when you're 21 and have probably what was it, like 56 games under your belt, or
But that's what they did. That's what they did, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. Ev, is like, and I said this about Julian Breezeball, and with the Lightning, is like, you could have a good coach, you can have a good general manager, you can have a good track record, but like they're fair. It's fair game to critique them when they don't do well, right? Like to act like
Yeah,
Julian
for
Breezeball
sure.
didn't make a mistake with the Tanner Jeannot thing and with the Connor Sheary thing and the Atkinson thing. Like it doesn't mean that he did do a good job in other areas, or that we think that they should get rid of him, or it takes away any of the successes that he have. But this is a what have you done for me lately type. Like nobody is a general manager or a coach for a team forever, right? So at what point do we look at some of these hitters that aren't hitting and go, well, all right, what are the hitting? What is Chad Mantola doing? All right, what about some of this lineup construction? What about going to guys certain too early where, everybody says, well, hey, it's led them to success in the past. Well, Ev, we're getting farther and farther away from 2020. We're getting farther and farther away from 13-0. Like and some of the decisions by Eric Neander, like it's not like if you critique them, you think they do a terrible job or you should get rid of them. But these guys need to be held to a higher standard too. Because
I agree.
once again, like you're allowed, and I know what the payroll is, but they've been successful in the past. And there's teams with less payrolls, like a team like the Athletics, that they're playing better baseball. Their records are similar, but they're just playing a better brand of baseball than the Rays, right? And that's the crazy thing. We're talking about the A's that are playing also a team without a home, right? So I think those guys need to look in the mirror. And I know there's, what's different with them, but I think that the Rays, the leadership here, and I'm not talking about Stu. That's another conversation. I want to ask about that in a second. But I think Neander and Cash need to look at themselves in the mirror, right? We talk about the pitchers. Does Kyle Snyder need to look in the mirror? Like, I think everybody needs to look at themselves in the mirror instead of thinking like, hey, and giving all these reasons and excuses and caveats why things aren't happening. Like, sometimes guys just need to play better. Sometimes coaches need to coach better too.
Let me I'll say this. First off, right? I mean, anybody who thinks just carte blanche that these guys don't make mistakes is, ridiculous. Like I
Right.
mean, there was the game last week that Cash completely bungled by not bringing in Mason Montgomery for
Right.
Uceta against like Varsho, which was like the worst matchup for him. And I went on Twitter. I was like, "What the was that?
Mhm.
Like, what are you doing?" And then it was
Right.
completely validated when he rectified that wrong, brought in Montgomery versus Varsho, and made him look silly. So, I mean, Cash has been trying to push certain buttons this year. I feel like more feel than like analytics, and it hasn't necessarily connected as well as it should have. Neander. Look, we look at the Morel trade right now, an objective disaster. Not so much that I don't think Isak Paredes would have done well at Steinbrenner, mind you, but certainly Morel was here for power, and he's done everything but hit home runs.
Right.
I also look at Junior Caminero. I don't love his swing. I just, he has immense power. He really, if he just touches the ball with lift, it's going to go out of the ballpark.
Mhm.
And he's hitting a million ground balls, and that's kind of what he's done throughout the minors, but it's been exacerbated here.
Right.
And they've tinkered with his swing. It doesn't look great. And I don't know if he's dealing with some sort of injury. He doesn't look 100% healthy,
Mhm.
but that's another debate. At some point, I can make excuses for Matola all I want, and I can explain to you what they see in him, why they want to ride with him. But considering where the offense is, and I understand the talent, pretty much since 2022, if we ignore the most outlier 2 months that this franchise will ever see at the start of 2023, where
Right.
they could have hit anything and everything, it hasn't been pretty. And at some point, this organization, I think my number one complaint about them is they are far too patient. They are far too complacent with people who do not perform
Right.
that do now this year they're kind of stuck with hitters, right? Everyone wants like need to get sent down. I think Meisner is well overmatched now, right?
Mhm.
Meisner had an amazing start. He in his last like 58 at bats, he struck out more than 50% of the time. It's ugly.
Right.
Ugly. He's overmatched. But all they have is Coco Montez on the 40 man, and that's it. Everyone else is injured. So they're kind of stuck there. So I understand you can't really keep tinkering and bringing people in. But certainly with pitchers, they have Joe Boyle there waiting in AAA. His numbers are fantastic. His stuff plus is amazing. He is one of the 5 best pitchers in this organization, and he is still in Durham. You are wasting innings on him. If you want to send a shot across the bow, I don't even care. You don't even have to send someone down. Just say, we're going to bring up Boyle for a start. And if he performs well, he's going to get another start. And
Right.
that's how you push people left and right. You can't just say, hey, we're going to get mediocre results and live with the process, because I get process over results and all that stuff. Firm believer in it. But at some point, you got to send a shot across the bow to your players that if you do not perform, there are repercussions for not
Right.
performing. And this organization, time and time again, sends people out there, and they just let you just have bad results until it can't be. Last year, I don't know how long we had to see Chris Davinsky suck, right?
Mhm.
Before we said that enough is enough with this. I don't
Right.
know how long we have to realize that Ben Rortvedt is not a legitimate backup catcher, or how long we had to learn that Alex Jackson was not a backup
Right.
catcher.
Mhm.
The guy is hitting 093. Like, it is unacceptable to have that in your major leagues. And I can explain to you why he is on the team still, because they have 2 catchers underneath him who are injured in the minors. But at some point, you got to just say F it, and we
Yeah.
got to hold our team accountable, and we can't
Mhm.
say that 93 is good enough. So there's a fine line. And I think fans probably aren't patient enough in general. But there is a point where I think the Rays go the other way and are far too patient, far too lenient, and it does not create a sense of urgency. It doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And it's just, I understand process over, outcome, but if your process is not leading to a positive outcome, then your process needs to change, right? That something's got to give, right? It's a results oriented business. And again, it was the same thing with Randy Arozarena a couple of years ago when I was saying, hey, it's not 2020 anymore. Like, we're still living on the heyday of Randy's postseason. That was the aberration. That's the exception. So at what point do you start looking at some of these players and like, it's not okay. Like, I don't understand. I have no explanation whatsoever why the Rays completely just give up on guys' offense just for the sake of defense. Like, you're allowed to get a guy that can play just slightly less defense that can hit 210. Like, I don't understand why it's all or nothing. It makes no sense to me.
The thing is, the funny part about that is this offseason, they actually said, screw it, we are going to sacrifice defense for a little bit of offense. And they ended up becoming the best defense per defensive run saved. They are right now the best defensive team in Major League Baseball, which is pretty funny that they did all that. But you see it, though, with Junior Caminero, right? Like, they traded Paredes, an excellent third baseman, for someone who is one of the worst third basemen out there in Junior Caminero, because he can hit home runs, which he does. And over time, Junior should be a better hitter than what he's showing. He's not the first 21-year-old to go through some training wheels here in the major leagues, but they've done some of that. The problem, and they have Hassan Kim waiting to take over for Taylor Walls, even though Taylor Walls, I have to give him credit, arguably is the best fielder in Major League Baseball this season. Not position, like not shortstop, best fielder. So again, per defensive run saved. So there's a little element of that where they kind of gave into some of the defensive metrics for a little bit more offense, but it still isn't good enough. And that's where we do have to factor in DeLuca out, Palacios out. Josh Lowe missed a ton of time.
But those guys aren't proven, right? Like, that's the thing.
No, they're not proven, but
we don't know.
But they are better
Palacios
than what their replacements would be.
Are they? We don't know that. Palacios is a fourth outfielder. DeLuca's a guy you just said to yourself, we don't know how good DeLuca is. Josh Lowe.
Theoretically, I'm speaking. Theoretically.
Theoretically, that's what you get. That gets you playing golf. That gets you playing golf.
I certainly get that. But the point of what I'm saying is they entered the season thinking one thing and now it changed to another. So, we can all debate whether that's a good decision, and the roster construction entering the season was bad. We knew the offense was going to be bad entering the season. We all said, what did you do with this offense? But the point is, when you look at how they view it and what they think it's going to look like, I mean, even Neander came out before the season and said this is going to be an average offense, right? And if everything goes our way, above average. I mean, like, when a GM is going out there saying, yeah, we think we're going to be an average offense, that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing. And yeah, that's where you can trickle into Stu and sort of the investment in the team and just, I mean, legitimately, they're not helping their cause out. I mean, they're out there, and we know they have a problem. They didn't fully address the problem. And guess what? It's still a problem. No shocker.
I just don't know why that I understand you can't go out and buy bats, but not every bat that is good in the major leagues were bats that people bought in free agency or acquired via the trade. Like, there are bats that come through the system. Like, the Mets drafted Pete Alonso, the Yankees drafted Aaron Judge, right? Like, there's a lot of these guys in baseball where they drafted, and there's nobody. I just don't understand how the Rays don't even stumble upon a guy. They don't even get a guy that's like out of nowhere, like, wow, this guy's a much better hitter. Look at that. Like, the Yandy Diaz thing came in a trade, and now he's gotten precipitously worse. So,
I would argue Junior Caminero in that trade was kind of a fleece job.
Exactly. But again, how many?
Myers, yeah.
Where's the guy? Where's the one guy that you're like, wow, they were able to get this guy. They were able to develop him. You're looking at Cam Smith last night out of Florida State. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just looking at guys like that, and I'm just like, how come the Rays haven't drafted a D1 guy that could smoke the baseball and that comes in here and bats 270? I'm not even asking a guy that's batting 300. Ev, I'm giving a guy that bats 275. Give me a guy. Like, how come every single guy that they bring up has got to be a bottom of the barrel guy? How come every guy is a Vidal Brujan, a Richie Schaefer, all these guys that you eventually get rid of because they can't hit? Like, at the end of the day, we give so much credence to the development of the pitchers and the defense. How come there's not an onus on developing offense? It's wild to me.
It's crazy. I mean, I think that, look, their foundation, I mean, what they've done outside of the Xavier Isaac draft, which was that's the only time that I can remember recently that they drafted somebody who they were like, oh, we're going to just go for power and not worry about all the other things, right? Typically, I mean, they did draft Braden Taylor last year, who was a college bat, was more advanced, and is having a really atrocious minor league season this year. But for the most part, they draft all these tweener, second baseman, shortstop types. and who have great glove, great speed, and you can move them around. I mean, I think in their head, they want to build a team of just guys who can make contact with the baseball, not drive it out of the park and steal a million bases. Like I think in their dream scenario outside of the catcher position and the, probably first base, third base, everybody else will be these kind of like 35 stolen base guys who, will just hit for a 250 north average. And if they can get on base, you just start the merry-go-round. Because why? Those guys are cheaper because you're never going to pay the big boppers. And so it's a really screwed up way of kind of viewing these things, of where you got to factor in the money and what you're going to pay for. And it's why, pitching is the easiest commodity to find on the open market out there, because you can, tinker with one or two things and boom, they're an all-star caliber and stuff plus. But they do have to, my bigger concern is like, they have a really deep farm system right now, probably going back to pre, the Randy days and all that stuff, where they hit that 4-year gap where they had to really figure themselves out again. We're kind of there. And they got a lot of talent in the farm system, but this year has been very underwhelming. And it's been disheartening to watch some of these guys in minor leagues, and more importantly, Carson Williams, who I was super excited to say, hey, next year, shortstop is figured out for the next, I don't know how long, because this is a Gold Glove caliber guy who is going to hit like 20 to 25 home runs and be, and steal like 30 bases. They're finally going to have their shortstop back. And he moved up to AAA and has been so overwhelmed to the point where it is like embarrassing. So Braden Taylor was the next best prospect. He's been so overwhelmed. I think he's in AA. It's been bad. And a lot of their top guys just have not shown up outside of maybe like Braylor Guerrero. And guess what? He's in Charleston right now. So it's like, there's a little bit of like, what is going on here? Because like organizationally, outside of a few guys we can pinpoint, it's been a bad year. Like all the way down. It's just their top guys have not been performing, and I haven't been seeing too many guys where I'm like, oh, this guy's doing really well. Pitching wise, a little bit better than the hitting, but the hitting is just.
And shout out to Sean Thomas and Cam Smith, not drafted by the Astros. That's right, he came across in the Kyle Tucker deal. I want to answer one of the things that you said, I forgot who told me this years ago. So there's this belief in Major League Baseball that if you draft a bunch of guys up the middle, that you can move them to different spots, because you draft these guys in a certain position, they move somewhere else, and it's always easier to move guys out rather than move guys in. You're not going to draft a first baseman and make him a shortstop. It's a lot easier to draft 8 shortstops, because then one of them could be your second baseman, one of them could be your third baseman, one of them could be your center fielder, which is great. But every once in a while, you need a big old, hog molly at first base that's 6'5", 265, that can eat 5 pizzas and drop 50 bombs for you. Like Prince Fielder was never going to be a shortstop, right? You need, like, that's what the great thing about baseball is. And I know that the Rays have tried to construct their roster so that they have everybody that's versatile. I understand that. But when you focus so much on versatility and guys play multiple positions, I think you hurt yourself, because there is a familiarity with baseball. Right? You want guys to feel comfortable, and you find that out about anybody. We asked John Cooper about this about Nick Paul. He's like, Nick Paul, he would probably want to play in the same position. He would probably want to be third line center all year long. And professional athletes want to know what their routine is, especially baseball. It's more routine oriented than any of the other sports. Yep. And as much as we laud the Rays for the ability to be versatile and guys knowing that they may play, they may not play, I understand that. But the best teams in baseball, for the most part, their lineup's pretty standard. You kind of know what it is, and there's 2 or 3 spots maybe that'll change if you have a lefty, if you have a day off, but you're not tinkering the whole lineup, and you're not overriding everything and taking your best bats out based on just something that you're reading in analytics. Like, there's times where I don't care if there's a left-handed pitcher on the mound. Jonathan Aranda needs to be in the lineup. If you have guys that are batting 0.95, I don't care what his average is against lefties. He's batting 310 overall. He's got to be in the lineup. Like, they got to find a way. And you said it before, like going with your gut a little bit more. But the Rays, and I think it's not even just with the big club, I think it's organizationally, because there's something to be said about these guys that are highly touted, that are drafted, and then they don't perform in the minor leagues. And then they come up here and they don't perform in the big leagues. Like, there's an organizational, I think, miss when it comes to hitting that needs to be overhauled. Because the fact that they don't even stumble on a hitter is a huge Huge problem.
And
before I let you go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say very quickly, it's been about 7 years with this core group of coaches. Once Matola took over,
Yeah.
like at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, do we need to bring in some fresh ideas?
Yeah.
Are we when you start hanging around the same people all the time and drinking the same drinks, you got to wonder what else is out there. And I really do think organizationally they got to ask themselves, have we brought in enough outside help to really keep us fresh and around the above the curve? Because the Rays used to thrive in the small margins, and more than ever before, other teams have spent in their analytical department.
Yeah.
They are right there with the Rays on some of these things. So the margins that they had over other teams slightly gone. So I do agree with you on a lot of what you said of just, at some point you got to ask yourself, is what we're doing the best thing for our organization, or do we need a jolt somewhere and to try something else?
Yeah, whether that's how you construct a roster, whether that's how you're teaching hitting from a minor league level, like nobody has ever exceeded expectations offensively, which is scary. Before I let you go, my last question. Do you think what has happened off the field, do you think what happened in the offseason has any effect on what is going on with the team this year?
I will say playing at Steinbrenner does not help. And I'm not like, I don't want to make an excuse. And Cash, he got asked it again, and he was like, he's frustrated by.
He's sick of talking about it.
he is, but he's sick of talking about it because he doesn't have a good answer, right? So you're asking a question that he can't properly answer, and he understands the issue, and he's trying to fix the issue. But he said this is not home. This is a temp home, right? And I think we all forget that, right? We keep saying they're home, they're home, they're home, and Kevin is just like, hey guys, just reminder, this is not where we live, right? We're borrowing this place, and we appreciate it, and the facilities are great, and there's no excuse to not win on game day. But this is not our home, and this team is not built for Steinbrenner Field. They are not built for power. The Yankees have built a lineup for power that can exploit the short porch and do these things that Yankee Stadium is built for, right? They spent years and years of cultivating lineups to make sure that it works for their ballpark. Teams tinker with their outfields to make sure that it makes sense with their roster of what they have. It's why Baltimore brought in their left field. Oh crap, our hitters are complaining. But this ballpark sucks for them. It is brutal for Morel. It is brutal for Danny Jansen. It is brutal for some of these guys where their home runs would be more if they were in Tropicana Field than what it is at Steinbrenner. The wind has been brutal to play in, and when you face teams who have more power than you do, it is not as big of an issue for them as it is for you. Right. So that's just the nature of it. So that is 100% a factor. Do I think like them actually playing there and like, the going across the bridge and all this stuff, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But yeah, I think this was a kind of an off season of turmoil, a lot of questions. Everyone's trying to figure it out on the fly. They're home for long stretches. The schedule is crazy, and it's only going to get crazier. So in the end, I think when we look back on it, we're going to say this was just a batshit crazy season. Like, to be completely honest on that front. So
what was everybody saying before? That's my whole thing. Is like, now everybody's like, all right, well, we didn't have a roster. Like, all everybody kept saying going into this, the narrative changes more with the Rays than any of the teams in town.
Well, it's two things though. It's two things. I just want to say, like, there are roster issues too. Because just because I say all that stuff, right? Like, so the question was like, has this affected them? It has. Does that mean that it's going to explain away all their issues and that I am going to say, hey, next year, just run it back with the same group? They didn't have a fair shake? No, right? Because the fact is, I watched Morel for half a season last year. He didn't hit any home runs in Tropicana Field. He had 2 great games against the Marlins, and that was it. And that's my biggest thing. You bring up Matola. If you're Eric Neander, I'm sorry, but for Neander, it looks like egg on your face, Eric, when the Morel deal blows up in your face. And if you don't have a hitting instructor who can get Morel fixed, if you don't have a hitting instructor that can make Junior Caminero the best possible hitter, that's a problem, because that is your future. And that's going to make you look bad, right? So that is, look, I like Chad, but the fact is, it is a performance-based thing. So there's 2 things here. right? We can say objectively the ballpark is not built for the Rays. It has
Right.
not helped them, but also it is not to explain away the issues they have and the continual issues they will have moving forward, because there are problems there. And this is what happens when you have a rotation that doesn't bail out a crappy offense. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a mediocre starting pitching group based on stats, actually a below average pitching group based on stats, not bail out their bad hitters, which is the way that this lineup is supposed to be built. And I kind of expected that with Steinbrenner being a little bit of a hitter friendly ballpark to, what we thought it was going to be. But I just think they're going to have to do some sort of, at some point they're going to have to really internally focus in on themselves and say, are we doing things correctly? And I don't imagine at the end of the year we're going to get to a conclusion and say, well, if only they were in Tropicana Field, this season would have been an 87 win year. That's just not the case. So two things are true.
Yeah, because when you look at the stadium and say, oh, well, it's a hitter-friendly ballpark, well, shouldn't that benefit the Rays hitters then, right? Like, I mean, you have a guy like Yandy Diaz that hits the ball the other way, and he's not hitting home run after home run to right field. Junior Caminero hit that beautiful home run at Chavez Ravine against the Dodgers last year to right field. He's got power out that way. I mean, Evan Longoria and BJ Upton, they smoked the ball when they were at Yankee Stadium. So going into the season, and this is kind of my point, is like, going into the season, a lot of people were saying if there's a team that is built to deal with these extraneous circumstances, it would be the Rays. They know how to deal. I don't know if the ball, like, I know it makes a difference, but I don't, like as we just said, I don't know if the Rays are going to be that much better at Tropicana Field. Like, these guys weren't, Ben Rortvedt wasn't tearing the cover off the ball last year. And if he's batting 93 at a ballpark that is conducive to left-handed batters, like, think about that. And then I think, you look at this season, and if not only does it not help because I think it's going to be tougher to have people go to the games when it gets hot out, when there's rain, if they're not playing well, but also you're going to go through this entire season. Let's say they're 70 and 92 or whatever. And then what? You just say, we just threw the season away for nothing. Like, that doesn't help you. So, like, I just felt like this was a season that was either you were going to show that this Rays team was going to be resilient and be able to win games in a multitude of ways, pitching, defense, hitting, or this was going to be almost an unmitigated disaster, because all you're doing now is you're not performing and you have that underlying reason, excuse, whatever you want to call it, while we were playing somewhere else, all these different things. Like, it's almost a throwaway season because, as you said, where's the fact finding? If these guys are hurt and they're not playing well, you still have kind of that built-in reason. Well, maybe it'll be different at Tropicana Field. I don't know where we go with the Rays this year.
And the next time I do see Eric, I got to ask him this question, because going into Steinbrenner Field, the short porch was out there. So you probably want your hitters to look oppo power, right? To kind of lift the ball the opposite way, which is the antithesis of what the Rays teach. They want you pull power. Pull power in Steinbrenner is horrendous.
Right.
But, I wonder if there's a philosophical focus on, like, we don't want to tinker with people for a year and completely F them up to work to this ballpark. We're just going to accept our L here and keep them doing the right thing. Because, like, Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz, I think combined, they have one home run away from Steinbrenner. Their profiles work well in that ballpark, right? When they hit it opposite field, it goes out, because that's the way that it's built. So if they were working all offseason on going the opposite field with power, like, Junior has to understand he doesn't have to pull things. Like, he needs to really adopt more of what Yandy does. Like, just be patient, let it go the other way, and it's going to fly off your back because you're so damn powerful. And, like, it just doesn't seem like he's doing that. He's, like, trying to pull with power, and that's why you're getting all these grounders into the dirt, because he's getting on top of the baseball instead of letting it get a little bit deeper and just taking it the other way and understanding it's going to fly. So to me, I'm a nobody on the outside looking at that, right? I don't understand how that's not more of a focus. And then I look at Christopher Morel, and we completely dumbed down the game for him. And we said, hey, just swing as hard as you can at as many pitches as you can, because when you hit it, you barrel it and it goes a long way. But teams are just throwing him sliders and off-speed stuff on the lower outside, which he's done his entire career. That the book is well out of Morel. And at no point does anyone say, hey, let me just try to hit that pitch a little bit to get people off of it, and then I can go and barrel up some of these other ones. But nobody wants to tinker with that. Everyone wants to just play within these margins of like, hey, pitchers are going to make mistakes. You just hit the mistakes. Like that's just, I think that's a very tough way to play the game of baseball. And I don't know. I mean, I think we're kind of a little bit more old school in the thinking, and I understand the new school and I respect the new school. But like when I went up to the dish, I looked at sometimes alignment. I looked at how the pitcher was throwing me, and I just went the way that the ball was going. I didn't think of a million things. I got my ass on base. That was my goal. How do I get on base? And look, I wasn't a guy that hit like 30 home run. Like I had zero power to me, so I was a Jake Mangum type. But at the same point, like we do have to just allow hitters to sometimes go up there and say, just hit the flipping ball. And I think that's why we've seen Josh Lowe look better this year, because to me, he looks like a guy who stopped trying to drive everything with power to his pull side. And he looks like he's spraying the ball a little bit more, seeing it better, tinkered with his bat. And I've loved what I've seen with Josh Lowe at the end of spring training and what we've seen right now since he's been back.
I mean, look at a guy like Chandler Simpson, right? You're not going to really teach kids to swing and hit the way he does, but he just hits the ball where it's pitched and he accentuates your strengths.
Isn't it funny that I think for Rays fans, if you were to ask them who some of their players are, like I bet you Chandler Simpson and Jake Mangum are on the top, near the top of that list. And those guys are slap hitters who get on base, steal bases. Simple game, right? Fun baseball. People love watching that. Right?
Yeah,
we don't,
of course.
Like, we kind of forget in all this stuff that the three true outcomes is boring ass baseball.
Yeah.
And people just like to see people playing the damn game, getting on base, making the defense work. It's why, I always said it when Chandler was in the minors. He's going to be a fan favorite immediately because he plays such a great game. It's so much fun to watch. It's fun watching Mangum. It's fun watching these guys with their hair on fire. That like at some point you got to bring the passion that like everyone grows up with and the way that you're taught, and you got to stop trying to dumb down the game to be like, just do this and don't worry about striking out a million times because you're going to hit 25 homers. Like I don't think players have fun that way. I just, it's a way to make a living, but is that the way that you're going to have fun? I don't know. That's my personal take out of any, I can rationalize everything and see things from Neander's perspective, but that's just me. Like, I love watching Simpson and Mangum. Give me all those guys, and I'll go to war with those people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Nobody wants to see Christopher Morel pulling off of a slider away and then popping up 5,000 times a season. And then just watch college baseball where there's bunting and stealing and the excitement when you watch those games. And obviously people don't watch them as closely because I think, those guys don't go right to the pros, so it's tough. It's not like college basketball or football where it's a little different there. But you watch those games, guys putting the ball in play. They're hitting, running, they're bunting. The small ball part of the game, like you're still going to be able to get home runs. Like guys are still going to run into these big swings. But the fact that, and again, kind of circling this whole thing around, if you're a team that can't hit, why not employ more guys like Chandler Simpson? I never understood that. I never understood why the Rays were on the forefront and on the cutting edge of openers and shifts and all these different things to make sure that they're on the forefront of pitching and defense. How come they've never come up with like a different way to hit or a different way to hit and run or a different way to like slash or bunt or like do some crazy shit to like, so that it's not three true outcomes, so that your guys that you have highly touted in the minor league system are just stuck in purgatory and they're either not performing at the big league level or not performing at the minor league level. I don't know. Well, we could talk about this all day. Evan Closky, 10 Tampa Bay, WTSP. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. We'll do this again soon.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
See you, man. Good stuff. As always, Evan Closky crushing it. We could talk baseball all day. All right. I know Josh Grizzard spoke a little bit earlier today over at One Buccaneer Place at the Advent Health Training Center. You guys want to hear what he has to say. This is from Greg Allman from the Tampa Bay Times. I know, listen, you're going from a guy in Byron Leftwich to Dave Canales to Liam Cohen to now Josh Grizzard. This is from our pal Greg Allman. This is what Josh Grizzard just said a little while ago about kind of getting ready for the season ahead because, listen, how good he does is how good this offense is going to look for the Buccaneers.
Making sure the staff was in place and getting all that in order, and then going through the NFL free agency and attacking that, moving on to the college draft and being able to come away with Mech and Tezal, that was great. And then having the guys here and being able to get into the installs and actually be out on the field, and not that we're going against the defense quite yet, but just getting the conditioning down. We've harped on these guys running as much as possible and grinding it out, and they've done an unbelievable job so far. So everything's been good. Looking forward to OTAs and being able to go against the defense a little bit. But no, it's been great up to this point.
How much?
So I think you said it. He's got position flexibility. I think people say receivers, but there's really four spots, potentially five, depending on how many you play with. He's got the mental capacity to learn all three, and not just learn it, but actually be good at it, which I think is the thing that people forget about the most. I could learn how to box, but I probably wouldn't be very good at it. So he can excel at all those positions. He gives you flexibility. Which means he's an awesome chess piece because you can put him on the field with other core skill guys, and now you can build a system and you really get everything you want because you got all those pieces. And I think we have multiple guys that can kind of fit different pieces. And so as a coach, putting together a system, I think is really it's a fun challenge to figure out how you can manipulate the board, put your best people on the field relative to what you're trying to do.
That was Coach on Emeka Egbuka, kind of what his impact can be in year one. Yeah, and it's exciting to know. I mean, listen, I still, wonder, is there another guy? Not saying that Emeka is not going to be a good player, but week one, if he's out there, listen, I'm excited to see what he can do. Excited to see that even when Mike and Chris aren't on the field, that you're going to still have a couple of guys that are going to be some matchup nightmares. And, hopefully you get to see what guys are made of when you start drafting guys in that similar spot. The best guy, the cream always rises to the top. And we've seen that when it comes to Trey Palmer. We've seen that with Rachaad White, and how last year Jalen McMillan got more snaps down, the road, and also a guy like Bucky Irving. Like those kind of things, when you look at them, like, hey, man, it's not about like what's fair. You got to put the best players on the field. That's very, very important. And I want to hear from, this is one of my favorite coaches on the coaching staff, and this is Coach Skip Pete, the running backs coach. And he's talking about, Bucky Irving and the contributions in the running game. Coach Skip is out there and he's always ready to roll. Here's what he had to say about young players and especially the impact from Bucky Irving in 2024 and then now in 2025.
If you have a talented young guy that comes in the building, and obviously you foresee him having success, and I think that's kind of what Bucky did. But it wasn't really any different than like Felix Jones in Dallas or DeMarco Murray in Dallas. So those guys came in and immediately were impacted on the offense. So I think Bucky was kind of looked upon to be that same type of back, and I think he did. But I think the one thing that we got to all understand is that we need them all. I mean, we need them all. I don't think I've ever been in a room where we didn't have 3 or 4 that we felt comfortable putting in the game. And I've always felt that if you have a fresh back in the game, you present a little bit more stress on the defense. So.
Very important to remember too, because we talk about the job that Bucky Irving did last year and how good of a player he was. And, there were certain people out there that were saying, oh, then you should trade Rashad Evans. You should trade Rachaad White. You don't want to trade guys like that, right? You need as many good players on your roster. There's 53 guys on this roster, and you just never know. Football is such a physical sport, man. To start getting to a point of you're trading good players away because you think you can better utilize that spot for somebody else. Like, don't be such. We talk about this with pitching in baseball. Oh, we got enough starters. Remember 2 years ago when everybody and their mother, including everybody at the radio station, was saying the Rays should trade a pitcher? And who was the only person that was saying not to trade a pitcher? Yeah, because you remember who got hurt? Everybody. And they had 2 guys. And then Taj Bradley, who they weren't even expecting to play with the big club, has to get called up. So you can never have enough good players. So don't be in such a rush to trade some of these guys. You just don't know. Accumulate as much talent as humanly possible. But I like a lot of what the offensive coaches had to say today. I'm excited to see what they're going to do here in 2025, led by Josh Grizzard. I also want to talk about this for a couple minutes before we get Alexa Russo on at 1:15. Do not feel bad for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and do not feel bad for Juan Soto. We'll start with the Leafs. And the Eastern Conference Finals starts tonight with the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Florida Panthers. And you look at that matchup between two teams, that is going to be a knockdown, drag out, 8 o'clock tonight in Carolina there in Raleigh. These are two teams that play the game the right way and two damn good coaches. I still think Florida's going to win this series. I got Florida in 6, but a lot of the talk in the NHL is still on the Toronto Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner and all these different things, and people talking about how tough it is for the Toronto Maple Leafs to play because of the fan base and the media. Like, this is what you get paid to do. And if you want to brag and say that you're the hockey capital of the world, because I remember being up there for the All-Star game a couple of years ago where Matthews' team won and McDavid was the MVP and everybody was talking about how great the All-Star game was, even though in my opinion it was the worst one I went to because people didn't travel to Toronto. It was all Toronto fans. Like, if you go to any other place, and I've gone to Vegas, I've gone to South Florida, I've been to Tampa, I've been to a bunch of different places, and the All-Star game is great because people come from all around the world. Toronto was like a home game. I was like, how great is this? Usually you see jerseys, random-ass jerseys from all around the world. All you saw was a bunch of Toronto jerseys. And now everybody's saying, oh, well, you should feel bad for the players, and you guys don't understand the kind of scrutiny that they're under. Okay, that comes with the territory of being a professional athlete. We don't hear that about the Lakers. We don't hear that about the Cowboys. We don't hear that about the Yankees. We don't hear that about the Bulls. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, that's what happens. Like, you want to play for Toronto? You want to be lauded as one of the greatest franchises in all the sports? That comes with the territory. Nobody's going to feel bad for you. You haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967, and you still want to walk around like you have some kind of history that's people are supposed to be proud of, and then you lose. And listen, the media doesn't help, because if you look at national media, they are very quick to pick the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's like, oh man, we want to be the people that say that they're going to win for the first time in how many years? Listen, they're not good enough. They haven't been good enough. They've won 2 series in 21 years. 2. I'm not impressed by that. I'm sorry. These players continuously underperform. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, they all have underperformed. And Mitch Marner, a Toronto kid, and the way that the fans treated him and this family, like, you think he wants to go back and play there? Everybody wants to be all proud of Toronto and the city and then all the history. A guy that grew up there, I guarantee you that he does not go back to play for Toronto. There's no chance in hell he goes back there. And I'm going to tell you why. You know why? Because listen to what he's saying. Everything he's saying is, I loved my time here. Everything is past tense. And it's funny how people are glossing over this, because I still think in their heart of hearts, they want him to go back to Toronto. If you're Mitch Marner and you feel like you've been taking the heat for the last 6 years, every single time they lose, it's not Austin Matthews or John Tavares' fault. It's your fault. I'm not going back there. I'm not going back there. Overrated ass franchise. F stands for fraud. Every single year, everybody picks them to act like they're going to do something, and they don't. They continuously come up short. They're frauds, they're failures, and they're not going to change unless they have a big overhaul of everything that's going in Toronto. The other person I'm not feeling bad for is Juan Soto. Juan Soto, after having a terrible series against the Yankees, and then going against the Boston Red Sox last night, you hit a ball off the green monster in left field, and then you don't run hard out of the box, and you only get a single. And now the coach is like, oh yeah, we'll talk to him. You're paying this guy $700 million, and he can't even hustle out of the box? Good luck with that. That's why I told you guys from the beginning. The Yankees dodged Soto going to the Mets. He looks miserable. You don't see the Soto shuffle. Now, do I think he's going to be an unmitigated disaster, a failure, a fraud, a bust? No, I still think he's going to have good moments. But he's not a great fielder. He's not fast whatsoever. He doesn't have a good arm. He has an accurate arm, but not a great arm. And he's just going to be a DH. So you're going to pay a guy $700 million that has, 2 tools? Fine. That's good for you. But if you're the Yankees, you're looking at what just happened in the last weekend, and you're going to say, hey, that money that we could have gave one guy whose skills are going to deteriorate big time over the next decade, we gave that to an ace in Max Fried, a consummate professional in Paul Goldschmidt, and a guy in Cody Bellinger who can play center, play left, and play first, who also hit a grand slam and had 6 RBIs on Sunday Night Baseball against the Mets and Juan Soto. So for all those people that are saying, oh, well, Juan Soto, people are being too hard on him and his family wanted him to go elsewhere. Again, are we really going to talk about feeling bad for a guy that has a $700 million contract? I'm sorry, buddy. There's people around the world that can't put food on the table for their family and can't keep a roof over their heads. And you want me to feel bad for you because you don't hustle out of the box? Hit the road, Jack, and enjoy your time in Queens, because you will never, ever have the legacy that you thought you were going to have with the Yankees, with the Mets. It's just not going to happen, because they will forever. They could win the next 10 World Series. They will forever work. Somebody that's like a little sister to me, the one and only Alexa Russo, joining the program. What's up, girl? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Love the hoodie, looking sharp. Is that new or is that old?
This is old. This is old.
It looks sharp though. And full disclosure, okay, I tried to get some different people because I didn't want to show favoritism to Alexa. I wanted to get Coach on, a couple of the players. So I efforted to get Coach on today, and she emails me and she goes, well, I can't make it because I got a lot of things going on. Can you just have one of my seniors, Alexa Russo, on it? All right, never mind. This is just fate that we were supposed to talk here. And this is great. So thank you so much for making time today. What was practice like today for as you guys get ready to go to Chattanooga?
Today was a feel-good day. We got out, we took some ground balls and had some BP on the field and hit off the tee in the cage. So definitely a feel-good day. Then we packed up the bus. We're flying, but there's a bus taking all of our stuff to Chattanooga with all of our equipment. So we're ready to go, but definitely a feel-good day today.
You fly out tonight or tomorrow?
Tonight, later tonight.
Wow. So Chattanooga. So give us the whole breakdown. How many teams are involved? What's the bracket look like? When's the first game?
So we play at 4 p.m. on Thursday, and we're in the second bracket. So we're the second seed. So we play Shippensburg at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So, but there's 8 teams total.
Nice. So who's going out of the family?
Both my parents are going. We tried to convince my grandmother to go, but I don't think she's up for it. I think she'd rather watch the game on the couch. And then if we, when we make it far, most of the family will come out.
Nice. I cannot wait for that. Take us through the last week, because you guys lost game 1 and you had to come back and you had to win the next 2. What was that mindset after you lost game 1? What was the conversation like as you realized, hey, we're going to have to double dip here if we want to achieve this goal to go to the World Series?
Throughout the whole year, we've been playing on a one-game mentality, win the first one and just go game by game, inning by inning. And we actually talked to our strength coach about it before we started up. He just said, win every inning, win the next inning. So that was our mentality. Obviously, we can't change what happened on Friday, but it happened to us before a few other series during the season. So we kind of knew, we can do this. And we've been fighting back when we lose the Friday night game and sweeping on Saturday. So that was that's what we planned on. And it was, once we lost on Friday, it was okay. Then we need to focus on the next one.
What does it mean to you and to your teammates to be the part of the first team to be able to go to the championships here? We always, obviously we know what baseball's been able to do, 9 looking for 10. We were at the game the other day, and, to be part of this, you've been there a while now. How special is that to know that you guys made history?
It's definitely special. We've kind of been knocking at the door for a few years now, and we finally, I think we pushed ourselves more than we ever have. And, we're just excited to be a part of history and be the first team to do it. So we're just looking to check the next box and, win that first national championship.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And UT is vibing right now. Lacrosse. We were there at the baseball game the other day. What was it like to be there? And, for those, and we mentioned on the program yesterday, 8-1, the baseball team was down. They were able to bounce all the way back, come all the way back, down 8-7 in the 9th inning. And Alexa's cousin Cole, who we've had on the show before, RBI single to tie it up. And then our good pal JD Urso with the walk-off in 10 innings. What is it like to be able to see your cousin and somebody like JD you've known pretty much your whole life, to see these Tampa kids and also to see the baseball program be able to do what they do, and also lacrosse? There's just so much success. We've seen so many good teams here this year, just this season with UT.
It's definitely exciting. We have just a family community at UT, especially with Cole and JD there. So to see them, we see all the hard work that they put in the weight room and seeing their whole season so far. I was just happy that, they came through for them. But coming back 8-1 was crazy. But I guess it's a long game. Nine innings is a long game.
I know, and it was hot as hell. So if I was going to be outside in the heat, they better have come back and won that game. For those, I want to take you back, and I want to start with, you played baseball growing up, and these are for the people that don't know. What was that decision like, playing baseball? Is that something that you wanted to do? Is that something that your dad thought was a better idea? And then the decision to go from baseball to softball, how did that happen?
So having my older brother Paul play and watching him play, and then Trip and Cole, my two cousins, playing, my mom took me to one ballet class, and I told her I was done after that. So I moved on to baseball, and I actually stuck with it till the 7th grade, which is a little late for a majority of the girls. But I felt like it prepared me for everything. It was definitely a hard adjustment switching. That's why I always kind of say softball is a little harder than baseball, just because I've played both, but pitching wise especially. So, but it was just, I want to play in college, and I was playing basketball too. And I just decided, my dad, and then we talked to Todd Snell, one of my dad's good friends, a big Tampa name. And, his older daughter, KK, is someone that I looked up to. She played at UCF. So having her as a good mentor really meant a lot. And it was something, I want to pursue in the future. So it's time to switch to softball.
Yeah, it's funny because I coached you playing baseball many, that's how long ago. My God, I coached you playing a Hit Factory baseball. That's how long we've known each other. And I think even farther back, it's just wild I remember your baseball days. I want everybody to understand kind of your journey, Alexa. Take us through the decision to go to UT and the injuries, and the accident and everything, because I think what you have gone through in your life, just your career at UT, is such a great story of perseverance and how to just never give up, and just resilience to the 100th degree. So just let everybody know like how your career started at UT, and then the things that you've had to kind of combat to get to where you are today.
So my freshman year at UT was 2019 to 2020, and that was COVID. So I kind of got stuck with COVID, but now looking back, I'm so thankful for it, because I got 2 extra years from it. Then going into my junior year, I was going to pick my little sister up around midnight, and I got hit by a drunk driver. So I broke a few bones in my hip and pelvis, and then I had a puncture wound in my leg. So the recovery, my goal was to get back before the season started, and I actually got back in the fall season. So that happened right after my sophomore season, going into my junior year, like late May it happened. I think it actually happened May 23rd of 2021. So we're coming up on the anniversary. Wow. Yeah. So it was, so I fought back to get back there. And then 2 years ago, I tore my ACL during later in the season against St. Leo. So then that happened. So I missed actually our first super regional appearance ever. I was still there, but it's different when you're not on the field in uniform with your team. So I came back from that, and then, I'm here, and we're making history. So it's fun.
What do you think what do you think coming back from those injuries, how do you think it's helped you on the softball field?
It definitely makes me more thankful playing. Like I haven't taken anything for granted, because you never know when the game can be taken away from you. And it almost was. So I'm super thankful to be able to play. It made me work a lot harder. Like I said, I didn't take anything for granted. So it was, when those things happened, it was like, you fight to get back. It's not just given to you. You have your off season with a big purpose, and it definitely hits home a little more when you're trying to work back to get on the field when it was almost taken away from you twice.
Was it harder mentally or physically?
Mentally, 100%. It's just hard when you know that everyone else has been, working healthy to get back, and you're kind of trying to play catch up. So that was the really stressful thing. It was like in my mind, I was trying to play catch up. But once I got back, I felt, I've still had some injuries along the way, but I kind of felt once I evened the playing field, and then it was that next season, which was this past off season, was when I kind of separated from everybody else.
who are the people that were with you, and who were the people that kind of helped you out the most when you were going through those kind of mental hurdles to get yourself in a position to get back to where you are today?
Definitely my parents and siblings and cousins and my big family. But my teammates too, and especially coach. She was there the second day in the hospital. And then she was there when I tore my ACL. So through the recovery. So having her as a backbone, and like I'm fighting to play for her again, and she's supporting me throughout the whole thing, as well as having the family support it. I mean, it means a lot, and especially having my teammates there throughout it all. And, they motivate me more than ever to come back and be able to play with them on the same field again.
What was it like last week to be able to be the person that got the final out? Everybody always dreams of that, like to be able to get that ball hits to you. You either want that ball to be hit to you, or you don't want anything. You wanted that ball to hit to you, and the camera view was so perfect, and the glove throw in the air. I mean, what was that like to be able to know, like, hey, hit the ball to me, and we're gonna win, and we're gonna go to the World Series?
Yeah, it was definitely something I've definitely thought about before and kind of reenacted in my head, or like the big hit when you're on the tee and kind of you're putting the pressure on yourself to see. But I've definitely dreamt about it before. Our pitchers put us in a great position, and we were able to hit, but they shut everybody out. So Auburn Montgomery scored 0 runs on us both games, and I was just able to catch the last out. But it was kind of, my mind went blank, and I kind of had more time than I thought I did when I was watching the video back, but I kind of just got it and threw it. But being able to have that final out and make history, especially for Coach Canner that's been there for 30 years, it's it was an awesome feeling.
30, I think it's 31 seasons, I think now. I mean, it's insane, the stability to have with the softball and the baseball programs with her and Coach Urso. And, what's the mindset now, Alexa, as you go? And, obviously it's nice, but I know how you are, know how competitive you are, and how competitive the team is. You don't want to just make this World Series. You want to win the whole damn thing. So what's the message outside of what you said? You're taking it one game at a time, but as far as the focus and dialing in, is there anything specific that you guys are making sure that you're doing to make sure that you're successful here and putting your best effort out there?
We've been preparing for all the pitchers and stuff, and the defense, which is one thing that we do great, is preparing. But then again, you have to prepare for, you'll see 10 different pitchers.
Right.
So one thing that we've thought about is, we just play our game. We don't play great when we're super down or we're super up. We play better when we're having fun and we're loose, and, everyone's picking each other up. So it's just that team aspect, and everyone has a role. And we're trying to, if everyone does their job, we'll be national champions. But just the outlook that we're having is, we've worked so hard and busted our butts in the fall and the spring, especially in the weight room, on the field, putting in extra work. So it's we're prepared for the moment, we like to say. So we're prepared for anything that can happen. And we've had some games that we're down by a bunch this year. So it's like we don't stop fighting. So that's a big thing that we live on. But, everyone to play their role, and everyone will have their moment.
What is it about softball players where you're able to stay so optimistic during down times? I mean, I always make fun of baseball players. Like, you guys are so moody. People make fun of softball players, but they're the ones that are optimistic and cheering everybody on, even if they get out of the game. The guys are all moody and they get all pissed off all the time. What is it about softball? I mean, you see it on every level, D1, D2, like you watch them on TV, and it's amazing. I think somebody called Alexa. Somebody called her. Oh, you there? Oh, we lost you. Let's see if we can get her back. This is what happens sometimes when people they're on she left. All right, she'll come back. Because I got to ask her that question, because that's one thing that I've asked Josie Foreman about this for USF, about, looking at the situations of softball players, even if they get taken out of the game. We'll get you back in. Hold on. There we go. Did somebody call you?
Yeah, tell them up there.
It's always the spam likely. But yeah, what is it about softball players that you just stay so freaking optimistic? And while the boys can get all moody on the baseball field, it seems like softball, like no matter what happens, you're going to stay with it, stay optimistic, and stay there with each other.
We definitely have a good bond on the team, and, we're all there for each other. When you spend every day with these people for hours and hours, you kind of see them when they have a great day and then when they have a bad day. So it's like you lift each other up, and that's the kind of culture that Coach Ganner's built here, and be there for each other. But then again, we play at a big field, but when we're playing away, we consider it a small field. So one swing of the bat can bring us back in it for sure.
Do you let your mind wander? Have you let it wander here in the last couple of weeks about what your life is going to be like after UT softball?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been thinking about it all year long. It's like I know it's coming to an end, but luckily we've been able to make it farther than we ever have. But I've definitely been thinking about it probably every day of my life, that I know it's coming to an end. So this year, I love going to practice, whether I'm having a good day or bad day. It's nice to see my friends and see my teammates every day. It's because I know like one day that's going to end, and it's different when you don't see your friends every day and your teammates had to become your great friends. So it's definitely going to be different.
And then lastly, I just want to ask you one more time, we circle back to the family, but just, the approach of, them being there and supporting you. And I know I've been up there before in the parking garage and right field. And I mean, just, I asked you and Cole this last time, but to end things off, just what that support has meant, not just from mom and dad and your brother and your sister, but just your extended family, right? Like your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, Coach Tom, like the entire Russo backing, I mean, it's something that you just don't see from a lot of different families. And it's not taking a shot at anybody else, but there's just something within the Russo family that you guys are there for each other. How much do you think that has to do with like your success and kind of not just the player you are, but the person you are too?
It definitely has everything to do with it. That's one of the reasons I, chose to stay at home and play at Tampa, because I saw that they were traveling every weekend to go see Paul play at South Alabama. So having their support and being able to have my family and, 15 people come watch every game, and they're there every weekend. So it just means a little more when, your family and your good friends that you consider family are watching and cheering you on every game, especially the ones that have been there for 6 years. Coach Tom's been up there with my dad for 6 years straight. So, and it was funny. We actually lost the game that he wasn't there this past weekend. So he was, I think we were all upset that he wasn't there, but it means the world to me. And I don't think they'll ever know how much I really appreciate it.
You hear that, Coach Tom? You better not be recording a video somewhere and not being at Alexa's game to support her. Well, Alexa, thank you so much for your time. You know how much I love you and I care about you and your whole family, and I support you. And man, I'm just so happy for you as a great human being and a fantastic softball player that you're getting to live this dream. You've gone through so much. You're a model of consistency, but also perseverance and resilience. And you can inspire people that are 2, 3, 4, 5 times your age by the way that you handle and you go about your business. So again, congratulations for your success. It does not end here. We will talk again next week when you guys win the national championship. Tell everybody I said hello, and thank you for your time. Safe travels.
Thank you so much. Sounds like a plan.
You got it. See ya.
Bye-bye.
The one and only Alexa Russo. Again, you cannot talk about baseball or softball in this city and not mention a Russo or an Urso or a Saladino. It's just that's the way it goes. And I put out the video, and I don't know if you guys thought, you know what, let's play it here. I want to play it here for you guys. Okay. Now, this is Cole, her cousin, and also JD Urso. Okay. And I made this video, and I want you guys to see, and excuse my yelling and my sore throat. Because I just, this is what UT, and this is just what love, and this is what it's all about right here. Okay. Come on, Cole. Right guy. Right spot. Right spot. Right spot. Go. 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 Tie game. Tie game. Tie game. Cole Russo. Let's go. Come on. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And I just want to read kind of within, maybe you guys can see this. There we go. I'll share it again on the screen. An incredible victory for UT, down 8-1, and they come all the way back to win 9-8 in 10 innings. Cole Russo with the game-tying hit in the 9th, and J.D. Ursa with the walk-off hit in the 10th. Two guys I've watched play ball since they were 5, and two families who I hold near and dear to my heart. It doesn't get more Tampa baseball than a Russo and an Urso doing what they did today on that field. Baseball is a game of redemption and resilience. This is why you go to Tampa. Incredible. That's what it's all about, man. And you're hoping, and I'm telling everybody out there, if you get your kids that are playing different sports, find yourself in an environment where it's a family type environment, that people are out there and they care about your well-being. And look at the celebration. Like, it means a lot when other people celebrate your success like that. And to be around the Russos and Ursos for as long as I have, like, it's incredible, man. It's awesome. And I'm so grateful that I moved down here. And, people ask me if I, don't you wish that you got into radio when you were 18? And I go, no, not one bit, not a percentage, not an iota. I'm so glad that I didn't get into radio right away. I'm so glad that I got into baseball and coaching, because I would have never met the Ursos. I would have never met the Russos. I would have never met so many different people that have changed my life. It's incredible, man. Like, you can't manufacture those bonds. You don't come at it. It doesn't come out of nowhere like that. Like, that's time. That's love. Like, Joe and Julie Urso and Paul, Melissa Russo, like those, and all their extended family, right? Everybody, right? Like, that kind of bond, that kind of love that you have for people, that's your chosen family, right? That's not your blood family. That's your chosen family. I've spent holidays with these people, right? I've spent Thanksgiving at the Russo's house. I've been all over the country, like with the Ursos, been with them. And I mean, just spending time, breaking bread, going to meals, like, surround yourself with people like that. There's so many different things that we see on social media with people bitching and moaning and bickering and arguing and stuff like that. I don't want to ever be that dude. I don't want to ever have stuff like that on this program. Like, I want to promote good things. I want to promote positivity and optimism and people like that. Alexa Russo, 6 years because she got hit by a drunk driver, because she tore her ACL. Now she's leading her team to the World Series. That's the kind of stuff that I want to highlight on the program. Those are the kind of people. And it's even better because that's like family to me. So shout out to Alexa, UT softball. Good luck. Bring it home. There's no better time to win your first national championship than right here in 2025. And shout out to the boys, baseball side, playing West Florida this weekend in the Super Regionals. And if they win, back up to Cary, North Carolina to go for number 10. That would be pretty badass. All right, what's on the tube tonight? USF Baseball. Again, we want to talk about local. Corey Braun on the bump tonight. It's probably going to be 7:30, 8 o'clock. It'll be 47 minutes after the 4 o'clock game concludes against East Carolina, who they just played this past weekend. Shout out to Coach Mitch Hannes and the Bulls. Unfortunately, Tampa's own Sebastian Greco out for the entire tournament, just dealing with a sickness that he hasn't been able to get over. And shout out to Sebastian and his family. We hope he gets well soon. First and foremost, you just want the kid to feel better, right? His health, and hopefully that they can win and take it home. And that Sebastian could play in the NCAAs. That would be pretty badass for a kid that grew up right here in the Tampa Bay area, that went to Gaither High. So yeah, let's hope that it works out for him. We mentioned the NHL playoffs, the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, 8 o'clock. Florida travels to Raleigh to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. I have the Panthers winning this game in 6. Shit, it might be like, I know they swept them last year. Will they sweep them again? I think this series has a better chance of being a sweep than a 7-game series, to be honest with you. I'm not sold with Carolina. I never have been. I don't know if I ever will be. I got Florida in this one big time. NBA playoffs start tonight. Minnesota and OKC. I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Minnesota wins this. I'm going to go Minnesota in 6. They win this series, and then it sets up Minnesota and the Knicks in the finals. That's going to be a good one. But Anthony Edwards, I think he's that guy. You have to go shot for shot sometimes. You're going to have to stand toe to toe. You're going to have to throw some bombs. stand there in the middle of the ring and do your thing. I think Minnesota's got enough. And I think inside where OKC, outside of Jokic, they were kind of able to outnumber them down low. I think now when you have Gobert and you have Naz Reid and you have Julius Randle, I think it's going to be a lot tougher for Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren to dominate like they did in that last series. And then on the perimeter, right, Jalen Williams and Lou Dort, are those guys going to be able to step up? Yeah, I mean, Shea against Anthony Edwards. There's something about Ant, man. He's got that dog in him. And they can go win on the road. I like Minnesota in that series. I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a good battle back and forth. Cannot wait. It is going to be a lot of fun. Let me make sure that I got all the pertinent information before we sign things off today. Oh, yeah, the NFL to OK flag football for the 2028 Olympics. I mean, listen, that's a guy like Mike Evans. You know he's going to want to get in there. 2028, still 3 years away. I don't know if he will, but just imagine our guys that we'll have in there. Listen, because there's guys, and we saw the video, we do have a flag football team that is not comprised of NFL players. Does that mean NFL players should automatically get the nod that they should be playing? I don't think so. They have to really take a kind of a deep look at this. I wonder how that's going to go, because people looked at the 3-on-3 when it came to basketball and they said, oh, it's going to be great. I don't know if it had that same kind of staying power as we saw for obviously the 5-on-5. We'll see, but there's 3 hours from now. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, it looks like Boogie Fland leaves Arkansas. He's not going to the pros. So Boogie Fland going to Florida to play for Coach Todd Golden, 6'2" guard, 42 in ESPN's NBA draft rankings. He was a guy that I think a lot of people thought was going to be even a bigger impact this year. 15.1 points a game, 5.7 assists, 3.4 rebounds over the first 18 games, but he had a right hand injury that affected him down the stretch. He was only a reserve for Arkansas, and you got to look at the job that Coach Cal did in year one, leaving Kentucky to go to Arkansas. Different world now. So he withdraws his name from NBA draft consideration. He's back in there with the Gators. The Gators are reloading again. And listen, who's to say that they're not going to go back-to-back? They've already done it once before. All right, good stuff there. Want to make sure everything else. Yeah, I think I got everything. Man, what a great program today. And a big thank you to Alexa Russo and Evan Closky for joining me here. This has been a lot of fun. It's Tuesday, man. We still got some great things going on this week. Still got some irons in the fire as far as who's going to be joining us on the program. Very excited for that. I know our friend Casey Hudson, who used to be here, now she's up in Boston. She's going to join us on the program on Thursday. Man, you playing tomorrow, so I'll be rocking a different kit and previewing that matchup against Tottenham in the Europa League final. The winner, not only do they get hardware, but they also get Champions League football in 2026. Cannot wait. I'm nervous right now just talking about it. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. This has been a lot of fun. Again, a big thank you to Evan Closky from WTSP Channel 10 Tampa Bay, and, of course, our good friend Alexa Russo from University of Tampa Softball. Best of luck to our Spartans. Hopefully they can bring it all home. I love you guys. I appreciate all the support. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher